What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Tropical Depression 13 has now become Tropical Storm Lee, ladies and gentlemen, and we have a lot we need to talk about. We have a lot of new information that's coming out, so here's what we're going to go ahead and do with it. We're going to go ahead and first talk about the public advisory, the forecast advisory discussion, all that stuff. Here's what we have. Tropical Storm Lee expected to rapidly intensify into an extremely dangerous hurricane by the weekend. It currently has sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. That's up from 35 miles per hour. It pressures 1,005 millibars, and it's moving apparently west-northwest or 290 degrees at 16 miles per hour. We've talked about this before on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. Earlier today, we were talking about how it's not moving west-northwest, it's moving due west. And as you can see right here, we can go ahead and pull up the visible shortwave as well. This thing is not moving west. It's still hugging that 13-degree latitude line quite well. So that's the pretty interesting thing I have to show with you guys right here. I don't understand why the NHC is saying it's moving west-northwest, because it's not. Like, you can clearly see it's still moving due west, and it's because of that anticyclonic flow that's going on with that storm that's about north of the Lesser Antilles. Please excuse me on that. So yeah, that's our situation we have right here. If we go ahead and look on satellite, this already looks like it's looking like an intensifying system right here. Look how quickly this is organized. We're actually going to go ahead and go back the last 90 frames, which is about 15 hours, to kind of give you an understanding of how much this is organized. Storm started to fire up more towards towards the center of circulation right here, and as you can see, it's pretty much ever since then been hugging this whole 13-degree latitude situation right here, and we have a huge burst of convection over the last hour firing up on the southern half of the system right here, and we're seeing a lot more convection storm activity across the center of circulation, and we are seeing that double banding outflow boundary right here. We are seeing a lot of outer bands starting to pop off all over the place. And this is a big situation that we have going on right here. It's no joke for sure. And the further west this moves, the more at risk the people in the Antilles are going to be. So before we get into the tracks and all of that, we're going to go ahead and show you kind of what the advisory is calling for. And look at this. This is the next key piece of information right here. Tropical storm force winds, despite this just being a tropical storm, already extend out 70 miles from the center. We can go ahead and show you the cone. Look at how much it expands out just from being a tropical storm for a few hours or so. This is a big situation we have going on, and it goes to show how quickly this thing is organizing. After it finishes organizing at this fast pace, it's going to start to intensify at a very fast pace. So that's our big situation. Here's our here's our discussion right here. 1 minute goes satellite imagery shows that the tropical cyclone has been improving in structure throughout the day, with additional curving banding features and a new burst of convection near the center. A late arriving ASCAT pass indicated maximum sustained wind supporting 35 knots, and satellite presentation has notably improved since that time. The initial speed is set to 40 knots to match the satellite trends. We also have satellite estimates off of this right here. Right now, the satellite estimates are around 37, 38 knots or so. So that's why they're going up to 45 miles per hour, because the satellite estimates support that. The satellite imagery clearly supports that. The ASCAT's clearly at a tropical storm, and we've gotten more data since then that really has this jumping up. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at a very rapidly escalating and rapidly evolving situation right here. With Idalia, we were waiting like 2 to 3 days for something big to happen, and people had plenty of time to prepare and all that. But this thing is rapidly organizing, potentially starting to rapidly intensify. We're not 100% sure. Here's the situation right here. It is becoming a question of when and not if rapid intensification occurs with Lee. This is huge this early out from the NHC. They're saying that it's not a question of if, but when. That right there should raise a lot of red flags. Because if the NHC is expecting rapid intensification, things are not gonna go well. That's what I've learned from experience from reading this. A well-defined outflow pattern has developed over the circulation, and there is some hints on a recent microwave pass that parts of an inner core are forming, and we can really confirm that on satellite imagery as well. The core has been really starting to develop over the last couple of hours or so. So this is a huge situation that we need to continue to monitor as time continues to go on. And we'll go ahead and continue reading this. There are still some notable northeasterly shear that could keep Lee in check for the next day or two, so the NHC intensity forecast will stay at a more moderate rate of intensification during that time. All the models decrease the shear by Friday, so rapid intensification is explicitly forecast in that time frame while Lee is moving over extremely warm waters. So here's the forecast advisory right here. They're expecting this in the next 12 hours to get up to a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm, then 70 mile per hour in the next 24 hours, then an 80-mile-per-hour hurricane, then a 90-mile-per-hour. Then it starts to really ramp up in intensity. From 48 to 72 hours, it jumps up from a Cat 1 to a high-end Cat 3. Then it jumps up again from a Cat 3 to a Cat 4 at least. Because this is what we have right here. The latest forecast is adjusted higher than the last advisory, near the model consensus, but there is a notable contingent of guidance higher than this forecast. There is increasing confidence that Lee becoming a powerful hurricane by this weekend. That's from the NHC themselves, folks. So you know that's what they're going on with. So we'll go ahead and show you the cone once again. This is what we have going on according to the NHC. I've been seeing some more models starting to push that a little bit more to the south, and basically the guidance and the real-time data that I've been looking at continues to have this system pushing further and further to the west. It's already traveled west by around 700 miles so far, so that should tell you something right there. And the further west this goes, the more at risk the Antilles are going to be. I know I said that before, but I need to say this again just to emphasize what's really going on, why the NHC cone and why these models are bothering me. Because models can say one thing. The computer models can say all they want. But the real-time data and the nowcasting, as well as everything I am seeing with this system, has this continuing to hug that 13-degree north area right there. And we did earlier see a little bit more of like a jog to the south. I'm not 100% sure if that's verified or not. Either way, it's still, like, at this point, the clock is ticking at this point, because the longer it moves further to the west, the longer it continues to develop over that. It's just not going to end well. So that's our situation we have right here. We're going to go ahead and show you the track models and the intensity. Here's the 18Z track models. A noticeable shift to the south from all of these track models. They're still having this pretty much hugging the 13-degree north latitude right there. It hasn't moved, and it hasn't turned to the northwest as these models were anticipating it to already. But for now, things are getting interesting, and we can go ahead and pull up the last one right here. We can go ahead and do that. Here's the 12Z forecast right here. This is where we were at 12Z. We were seeing a more of a northward track from the Lesser Antilles. I'd say this is about maybe 125 miles. Here's where we are at right now. Okay, here's where we are right now. Boom. Now in a lot of these miles, we're less than 100 miles away. So depending on how much further to the west this goes will really depend on what impacts the Lesser Antilles could get. And depending on the angle of that turn could depend on whether this makes a direct impact or a close pass to, but still gets hurricane force winds. We'll have to wait and see on that flank. But that's the situation. Here's the intensity models. Majority of them still have a major hurricane strength. Majority at Category 4, Category 5 intensity as time continues to go on. So this is something we need to continue to watch, and rapid intensification. Even the NHC is saying that that's possible. So at this point, there's really no questions about this. Now we're going to go ahead and show you some more model runs. We're going to go ahead and show you the European latest 12Z run to kind of give you an understanding of why I'm so hesitant to trust the models right now. So here's the 12Z European, has the thing organizing, developing, moving west-northwest, pretty much continues to do that. moves pretty much north of the Lesser Antilles, still provides some impact right there. But here's the interesting part in the long term, because the 12Z European, as I've been seeing these models fluctuate, wobbling up and down, we're starting to see a much weaker trough and the system start to push more towards the east coast a bit more, which is pretty interesting to say at the very least. If we go ahead and show you the 500 millibar anomalies right here from 186 hours out, you can see this thing organizing, this thing moving to the north, then this massive ridge blocks it and starts pushing it more to the north. This is that trough that was in question. It's significantly weaker than it was in the 0Z. Just to give you some context, here's the 0Z right here. 0Z had this, 0Z had a trough there, and that's why it was turning. It was pretty much around here, and now here's where we are at the 12Z. Boom. It's there, it's a lot weaker, and the ridge is quite a bit stronger. So everyone will have to monitor that. That means that a lot of areas in the East Coast could see some sort of impact. However, it's still 10 plus days out, so please keep that in mind. We're not 100% sure what's going to happen. Now we're going to go ahead and show you some conditions. Once again, we'll show you the wind shear mainly, because that's the one I'm mainly worried about, because there is still a little bit of wind shear that could potentially impact it, at least for the next day or so. However, at the rate it's organizing, it's basically disregarding whatever wind shear is there. So we'll have to monitor it for sure. There's like a pocket of 20 knots of wind shear over here. However, I'm not particularly concerned about that. It's still going to organize at a fast rate. It's still going to develop at a very fast rate. So it's something to watch. We'll keep an eye on it. Also, I'm paying attention to global sea temperatures. Like they said, record global sea temperatures across this whole ring right here. So definitely something to monitor as this thing continues to move through 28, 29, 30 plus degrees Celsius, 82 to 86 degree Fahrenheit for those of you who live in the United States. So definitely something to monitor at least for the next 5 days. OHC is also a huge concern for me, primarily because of just this thing not even in the best OHC yet, and it's starting to rapidly organize and rapidly intensify, potentially. We're in an area of 75 to 100 OHC. That's expected to increase as this continues to move through the western half of the main development region, especially as it approaches the Antilles. It's going to be moving in areas of 125, 150 OHC, open for rapid intensification. Wind shear is definitely supporting that. Plenty of warm water to support that. Yeah, I don't see this ending well for anyone that gets in this thing's way. We'll keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get more people engaged with weather. But with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.